Hello. This is a presentation on the scientific basis and a research proposal for D-SETI. D-SETI stands for the Dream Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. The D-SETI Institute is founded on the foundational hypothesis that we already have signal for extraterrestrial communication as expressed through the overwhelming testimony of reputable citizens. We have calculable probabilities for contact, which indicate that anybody can have contact with extraterrestrial intelligence given lucid dream training. And finally, that we can have instantaneous communication with extraterrestrial intelligence based upon the non-local quality of the psi phenomenon as expressed through psionic dreams. So what is SETI? SETI is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and you may be familiar with it in its work with large radio telescopes to detect signal. It's actually detected 0 signals in the last 60 years, and its theory and hypothesis is based upon incalculable probabilities put forward by the Drake equation. It's important to know that the dialogue that comes up and out of that sort of radio communication would take generations to unfold. It's received $10 million from the US government per year when it was in NASA, and it operates at around $24 million a year now. So what is D-SETI? D-SETI is the dream search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It uses psionic dreams, and we'll talk about that later, to detect signal of extraterrestrial intelligence. It's based upon thousands of signals from testimonial evidence of people who have had contact with non-human intelligences through dreams and other psionic means. It is based upon calculable probabilities from quantitative studies. So we can really estimate what are we talking about, what sort of size of sample are we talking about, and then we can test whether or not that's true. The extraterrestrial dialogue, the dialogue with extraterrestrial intelligence, is instantaneous based upon the non-local qualities of the psi phenomenon. I'm asking for $500,000 over 5 years to move this research forward, and that is approximately 0.4% of the SETI budget. So these are all the references that go into this presentation. It's important for you to know that this is grounded in inquiry. So this inquiry for me, the scientific inquiry, came up when Ray Hernandez, the director of CCRI and also of the Free Foundation for the Research of Extraterrestrial and Extraordinary Experiences, he asked me to write a literature review chapter on lucid dreams as a contact modality. A contact modality simply is one of the many ways that we can relate to the greater reality of non-local consciousness. So what's the greater reality of non-local consciousness? It's actually based upon the quantum holographic theory of consciousness put forward by Edgar Mitchell and some of the parapsychologists. But that in itself is related to the study Beyond UFOs, which is the only and largest statistical study of contact with non-human intelligence related to the UFO sighting. So it surveys more than 4,000 reputable individuals about their contact, and those conclusions say, hey, we live in a consciousness-based reality. That's why we can see the quantum effects of like the UAPs being here and there and moving strangely. It's based in consciousness. That's why it makes sense that there are psionic qualities to these interactions. About 80% of people who have had interactions and see these things say it happens telepathically. That's a large figure. So that's really important to know. I was so shocked by the inquiry. I've been working with it over and over and over again to really express the immense signal and possibility here. And I believe that the expression in the form of D-SETI is the most potent way. So thank you for being here and inquiring with me about the possibility of dream search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So I've put forward these inquiries in a variety of ways. You can get to that at dseti.org/academic-research. I'm presenting the research proposal, I've got an inquiry into the UFO, UAP sightings, ET contact, and dreams. In my master's degree work at California Institute of Integral Studies, I actually wrote about the Jungian Foundation for the Quantitative Analysis of Dreams and Other Psychical Phenomena, which is a theory that we'll be using here at D-SETI. And then finally, as my work as a dream worker and hypnotist, I have put forward an inquiry into alien abduction, missing time, hypnosis, and dreams. It's really not what you expect in terms of alien abduction and missing time. There's a tremendous amount of low sample size that has produced a large media understanding as to what alien abduction is. So please do check that out. It's important to know that dreams and ET contact are highly strange and bizarre. So the materialist worldview does not know how to handle dreams. It certainly doesn't know how to handle ET contact. So it may be triggering for you to consider these matters, and that's totally fine. That's totally welcome. You are invited to think of everything, like I'm saying, like a dream. You can say, oh, well, the studies are false. Oh, well, the meta-analyses have errors in them or something like that. Oh, well, his conclusions are fantastical. That's totally fine if that helps you not feel a sense of discomfort. Just know that when you approach this material, it works on multiple different layers of your being. Conscious, intellectual, and also at the heart level. So I invite you to proceed with caution, knowing that you may actually have had psionic contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence through something like a dream that you may be ignoring, and that may actually come up when we talk about these things. I would love it if it did, because I personally believe that if these memories are coming up, you are capable of integrating them and stepping into this greater reality. This is also grounded in my personal experience. I've been an active dreamer for more than 25 years, and I've been an explorer of psionic contact with extraterrestrial intelligence for about 10 years. That is not exactly what you'd imagine. I've been entranced by the possibility. I looked to the lucid dream practices. I also looked to the shamanic practices, and I said, hey, there's non-human intelligences acting here. Couldn't we communicate with extraterrestrials in this way? And every time for the first part of the inquiry, I would reach out, they would reach back, and I would have a very strange dream that had paranormal qualities, meaning in my waking life, there would be omens and symbols that pointed to significance. I didn't know what to do with it. So for 5 years or so, I was like, I just can't handle it. And then really in the last few years, after I made a sacred prayer to be of service to others, I started having the capacity to hold and understand that I am actually engaged in psionic contact with extraterrestrial intelligences through my dreams. It's not what it looks, what you'd imagine it. It's highly strange, highly bizarre. There's not a lot of facts I can provide, but I do provide public testimony through video interviews and things like that. And you can get to that by going to the bit.ly URL, NHI-dream-testimony. So our knowledge of dreams in ET is extremely is sparse. Actually, it's unfortunately sparse. There are only a handful of studies that pave the way, but they do actually pave the way. We do actually have knowledge that there is a significant but weak signal, right, for psionic dreams and ET contact. Personally, I say that it is a weak signal because these studies have often unfolded in the understanding of objectivity. They assume that this is a physics experiment, not necessarily an interpersonal journey that renders into collective knowledge and objective knowledge, but it is actually an interpersonal journey. All of the studies call for further studies. They say, hey, it's worthwhile, we should do this. So dreams and ET contact are highly strange and bizarre. We do need to interpret them, right? There is not a one-to-one correspondence between dream experience and objective knowledge. So we need to go through a personal process of discernment and interpretation when we relate to our own dreams and when you relate to other people's dreams and dream testimony. Even here and now, I'm inviting your discernment and interpretation. Psi phenomena are real, right? So what are psionic dreams? Psi phenomenon is real. And so this researcher, Utz, did a study, was commissioned by the government to study whether or not the psi phenomena is real. And she looked at government-funded operational psi activities, and she concludes that it works, and I love this conclusion. It is recommended that future study focuses on understanding how this phenomenon works and how to make it as useful as possible. There's little benefit to continuing experiments designed to offer proof, since there is little more to be offered to anyone who does not accept the current collection of data. And that's in 1996. We know that about 8% of dreams are termed exotic. So Krippner and Faith in a 2001 study collected 1,666 dreams. They classified 8.1% as exotic, meaning they exhibited qualities of being lucid, dream within dreams, out-of-body, telepathic, mutual and shared, clairvoyant, precognitive, past life, initiation, and visitation dreams. The visitation dream actually applied to both human spirits and extraterrestrials, so long as they had a meaningful message for the dreamer. And so we know that ET dreams are happening. So Dream ESP is real. This quote comes from a meta-analysis of ESP dream trials since the Maimonides Dream ESP program and onwards. And it says Dream ESP can be defined as a form of extrasensory perception in which a dreaming perceiver ostensibly gains information about a randomly selected target without using the normal sensory modalities or logical inference. Dream content can be used to identify target material correctly and more often than would be expected by chance. And that's really important. So if we have the chance rate at 50%, they found that it's 63% of identification rate. So there is a weak but detectable presence of extraterrestrial and UFO in dream content. So when considering the Krippner study, we know that about less than 1% refer to ETs. But then when we search the Sleep and Dream database, which is a collection of about 40,000 dreams, for the terms UFO and alien, about 0.2% return with the words in there. But when we look to the category of fantastic beings, about 3% of the dreams have fantastic beings. And we can compare this to a normative study about the Hall van de Castle, from Hall and van de Castle, that returns about 0.7% of dreams involving fantastic beings. So the types of psionic dreams that we are looking at here with D-SETI are telepathic dreams. So in that thoughts can be transferred across space and time in a non-local way. So what could we learn and share with ET civilizations if this were the case? Right? We're talking about dream sharing, in which various individuals or collectives share a dream experience with measurable similarity. So how quickly would we accept all of our human differences after experiencing ET minds? Right? We're dealing with precognitive dreams as well, dreams that are used to predict the future. For example, the dream reports of 9/11 prior to the date 9/11. So what might we dream into reality with our greater galactic community? And then finally, we're thinking about remote viewing in dreams. So dreams are used to provide knowledge of distant places, times, or people. So what could we learn about ETs from our dreams? So is ET contact happening right now in dreams? So ET contact is often misunderstood as dreams. This is something that all hypnotists know. All hypnotists, and I would like to have all dream workers know that extraterrestrial contact is often misunderstood as dreams. So this is a quote from Dr. John Mack, who is the Harvard psychiatrist who worked with experiencers of alien abduction to figure out what was going on. And he says experiencers who testify to ET contact often report of thinking of their experiences initially like a dream. There seems to be different reasons actually for thinking of ET contact like a dream. And this is actually a paraphrase of his work. The different reasons, and I'll just say those briefly, is one is that it is convenient, right? So John Mack talks about the sense of ontological shock, meaning you have had an experience that reveals your worldview to be incomplete, and that you feel threatened by those experiences, and therefore you say, oh, it was just a dream. It was just a dream that I interacted with those ET beings and they took me into a ship or whatever, and brought me back and revealed to me that space and time isn't what I think it is and telepathy is real. Oh, that must have just been like a dream, because this experience of ET contact was highly strange, and therefore is very similar to the highly bizarre aspects of dreaming. And so that's one of the reasons. Another reason, and this is often present in the abduction literature, is around the sense of screen memory, of mind control, or things like that. But I would say that that phenomenon actually requires a deeper exploration and inquiry before we make that conclusion. It seems to me likely that the human mind, without the capacity to integrate the experiences, will create dreamlike scenarios to help clothe those memories and things like that. We know that intending to contact ETs leads to dreams of ET, and this is a really pivotal study. This is called Emulating Alien and UFO Encounters in REM Sleep. And so the experiment worked with about 150 some participants who intended to have a dream contact with UFO or ET intelligence. And they actually did have dreams that responded at a rate of 75%. So 75% of their participants were successful in having a UFO and ET dream. While we need to actually compare that with the success rates of trained lucid dreamers when they try to accomplish their intent. That's about 48%. The numbers aren't directly comparable, and it requires further study, but I find it really interesting to know that when you intend to have a lucid dream about ETs, you actually do at a rate that seems to be greater than chance. And that's actually been greater than normal, right? So greater than other types of lucid intent. That's been my personal experience when I've reached out authentically with my heart in a dream incubation process. They've actually reached back. So I'd like to talk a little bit about estimates, because we know that SETI is built upon incalculable probabilities of the Drake equation. So, and it has received zero signals. While we see that about less than 1%, but more than nothing of dreams relates to ET contact. So I'll just run through the different numbers that we know about, so that we can produce estimates together. So about 3 to 4 dreams are remembered per month. On average, per person. About, let's say, 0.2% of dreams relate to UFO and ET contact. There are 3.4 lucid dreams recorded per month per lucid dreamer. We have a 48.5% accomplishment rate of lucid intent for lucid dreamers, which you should compare with the 75% success rate of lucid intent for contact with UFOs and ETs. But we'll use the smaller number because it's easier for the mind to accept that we're working with the most conservative estimates here. Another factor is that 80% of ET-involved UFO sightings involve psi phenomenon. So if you see a UFO, then likely, or you're interacting with a non-human intelligence, then likely it is psionic in nature. And then finally, we've got a 63% success rate from the Dream ESP study, saying that it is, chance is 50%. We've got the success rate of 63%. So I apply this to the number of, I apply these factors to the number of UFO sightings reported to the National UFO Reporting Center. On average, we have 5,600 UFOs reported to New Fork. So let's cut out 95% of those based on Rob Freeman's rule of thumb that 95% of reports are somewhat misidentified as unidentified flying objects. So then we might have then we apply the 80% rule. So then we might have 200 examples of psychic contact based on these UFO, number of UFO reports. So then of those 200 experiencers, if they attempted to make psionic contact via dreams, we might expect a success rate of 97% of accomplishing the intent to make contact, right? And then are those psionic? Well, I'm not sure how to judge that, but I'll say, well, let's multiply of those dreams that accomplish the lucid intent to make contact with ETs. What percent of those are just dreams and what percent of those are psionic dreams? And so I say, well, 8% of them will likely be an exotic dream, right? And then let's say in terms of success rate of psionic stuff, it's like 63% of those might be a successful psionic contact. And therefore we get the number 5 potential ET contact dreams per year based on the number of UFO sightings, which is significant. That's so much more than zero. That's so much more than zero. We should be combing dream journals for these. We should be inspiring people to share these with us so that we can understand more and more. We should be developing tools to identify what is just a dream and what is psionic contact. And I actually know what that tool is, and it's asking the dreamer themselves the significance of the dream, because that is actually the only ethical principle here when we're working. We have to take their word. We have to trust the testimony of reputable people who we are asking for about their experiences. Let's just trust that. So that is how we tell the difference between whether or not someone had just a dream or whether or not it was contact with extraterrestrial beings. We say, are they reputable human beings in their life? Can they make common sense judgments? Do they have a sense of discernment? If so, when they tell me what their experience is and the significance of their dream, I am ethically bound, actually, by the International Association of the Study of Dreams ethical guidelines to assume that they have the understanding of the significance, that they are the decision maker of the significance of their dream. So that's very important to know. So let's consider the possibility of working with 12 dedicated lucid dreamers. So if we worked with 12 dedicated lucid dreamers over 1 year, what might we expect? So based on those numbers, we could expect 237 successful lucid dream intents per year. And these are small numbers. If you look, this is the smallest number associated with lucid dreamers. And I would actually, I've been in contact with people. Some people are like, I have 8 lucid dreams a night. So this is assuming that 3 to 4 lucid dreams. And so based on that, we would see 237 successful lucid dream intents per year. And then we apply those say, hey, what percent of those are actually truly psionic? Well, 7.6% of the dreams, based on the conservative rates, yield potential psionic ET contacts. So this is something we could generate with 12 dedicated lucid dreamers. How amazing is that? That's just incredible. So what if we took that to a lucid dream community of about 5,000 individuals and asked them to participate for 1 month? We would get 420 potentially psionic ET contact dreams in that month. How amazing. I mean, these are signals. This is an actual signal. This is a prediction. I actually truly believe that we would have much more, but this is just the numbers based in like objective peer-reviewed literature from what I can tell. And just doing the math, this isn't necessarily rigorous statistics, but this is kind of estimates. We're making estimates here. And I say we get 420 potentially psionic ET contact dreams per month if we worked with 5,000 individuals. That's not a lot to ask for, actually. So all new science requires courage, and it's really important to know that. So accepting the possibility of psionic dream contact requires a shift of worldview. And that shift of worldview is what John Mack called ontological shock. Luckily, our quantum physics have paved the way over a century ago in the double-slit light experiment and its elaboration in the observer principle. Luckily, our military-industrial complex has provided working examples of operational psi experiments that produce results beyond reasonable doubts, but still require participation for interpretation. Thank you for having the courage to go on this journey of discovery. It's extremely important. So how do we study dreams, right? This is the question, because there's a signal, it's meaningful, but it's hard to convert into knowledge and hard to talk about in objective ways. But there are ways to do that. So dreams are not like other phenomena. They are irrational, bizarre, and subjective. Therefore, any approach must be holistic, non-dual, and participatory. What about objectivity? Well, you can still do objective study, but you yourself must also participate in your own dream practice. So like I'm doing now, I've said, hey, I have personal testimony about ET contact in dreams. This presentation is all about the scientific literature and inviting you to a scientific inquiry. These are two different things, but one is based in the other. They're mutually beneficial, actually. They work with one another. And so that's what I'm saying. And that's why I think actually a lot of the dream studies in the past and the contact studies don't work. It's because these scientists are stepping back, pretending they aren't already the observer in a world that responds to conscious observation, right? So let's just take that for granted. Let's not pretend it's not there, because that knowledge has been here of the observer principle for nearly a century or more than a century. So let's just assume that's the case and start practicing what we preach and what we're studying as scientists. So there are 4 ways to study dreams. One is personally through practices like dream journaling and lucid dreaming. Another way is interpersonally through practices like dream sharing and dream work. Objectively, we can study. Objectively, this is objective phenomena here. This isn't subjective phenomena either. It's through the quantitative content analysis of the dream report, right? We aren't studying dreams when we study dream reports. We are studying word frequencies that people have written down. Therefore, it's a completely objective experience that we can experimentally work with. And we actually can do experiments through the establishment of lucid intent by dream incubation. And I'll talk about this later because that's huge. So objective study through content analysis, this is really important. And I'm going to read this because a lot of people think that dream work is subjective, right? And it absolutely is, but there is one lens that we use that can be objective. And so this comes from Bill Domhoff, who wrote the book Using Content Analysis to Study Dreams. The article or chapter. So we've got content analysis, the use of carefully defined categories and quantitative techniques to find meaningful regularities in text is very different from the usual approaches to dreams. It does not make use of free association, amplification, autobiographical statements, or any other information outside the dream reports themselves. It has led to numerous findings on the relationship of the dream content to gender, age, mental health, culture, and individual differences. It can be used in conjunction with any theory for descriptive empirical studies. It is most convincing when the content analyst knows nothing about the dreamer. And I would say actually we have computational techniques now that surpass subjective raters. So it's completely objective in that way. The application of content analysis to dream reports hold out considerable potential for questions of interest to scholars in humanities, religious studies, in which this method has been used to study literary texts like Shakespeare's plays, fairy tales, folklore, etc. For example, it often leads to the discovery of patterns in a series of dreams from one person that were not detected by other methods. Content analysis is very simple in principle, but difficult to carry out in practice. It consists of 4 basic steps. 1, creating relevant categories that can be understood and applied by any investigator. 2, tabulating frequencies for the categories. 3, using percentages, ratios, and other statistics to transform raw frequencies into meaningful data. And 4, making comparisons with normative samples and control groups. This is literally the work I have prototyped through NORD and is coming up through LightNet, which will form the cohesive basis for D-SETI, that we can take large databases, maybe 100,000 dreams, apply natural language processing and quantitative analysis techniques that are associated with content analysis to produce quantitative data that can automatically go into the tabulation process, right, in reporting. And so this is something that we're bringing forward with D-SETI and the related organizations, LightNet and Exo Metaverse. So dream incubation. So this is a process of intending to have a specific dream. So in this case, the paper here, the Committee of Sleep, studied the relationship between dreaming and problem solving. 76 college students were asked to incubate dreams addressing problems of personal relevance nightly for 1 week, or until they had a dream which they felt solved the problem using the dream incubation instructions of Demet. Approximately half of the subjects recalled a dream which they judged to be related to their problem, and a majority of these believed their dream contained a solution. So again, we see that about half success rate of intent, and a lot of them achieved their intent in a way that was satisfactory. So what if we incubated dreams together for ET contact? Here is a kind of a description of lucid dreaming. So lucid dreaming is really important to know about because that's when a dreamer is aware that they're dreaming and can exhibit some level of control over the dream content. So here we see that of lucid dreamers, right, there is 3.5 or so lucid dreams per month. And that's it's about half of the time you remember you have an intent to experience something, right? And then there's also the accomplishment percent rate of about 40% for the total sample, and that goes up to 50% for the trained lucid dreamers. So this is really important to know. I also want to talk about the possibility of using hypnosis or a kind of self-hypnosis in dreams. This comes from an older study from 1970 called The Conscious Control of Dreams by Charles Tart. The reason why I'm talking about this is because it appears to me there's a kind of history here that you need to know about. In the 70s or so, 70s and 80s, they talked a lot about hypnotic dreams. People were really interested in parapsychology. Then there was a sort of disillusionment of dream studies or something like that with this. It went more into lucid dream practice. How do we incubate lucid dreams, and less about parapsychology. So it appears to me that a lot of this literature just was dropped from the 70s. There's a tremendous amount of wealth in terms of how the experiments were done, what was done, and there wasn't really critiques of them that were effective or meaningful. It just went out of the consciousness. People stopped talking about it. So I'm talking about it now because this is a way that we can establish experimental control over our dream experiences. And so there's a lot here. Basically, I'll just read through this abstract from Charles Tart and Dick from their paper, Conscious Control of Dreaming. 13 highly hypnotizable subjects spent 2 nights in laboratory. Before going to sleep, they were deeply hypnotized and instructed to dream about a stimulus narrative in every stage, one rapid eye movement dream of the night. A second stimulus narrative was used for other nights in counterbalanced order. Dream reports were obtained from 1 REM awakenings, but all subjects but one showed some effect, and the mean effect across subjects ranges from 2 to 4 elements of the stimulus narrative clearly appearing in dreams. The peak effect ranged from 0 to 24 elements. Thematic analysis indicated that 8 of the 13 subjects reported at least one dream in which the stimulus narrative was a dominant content organizer. The number of stimulus narrative elements appearing in the dream reports was positively correlated with hypnotizability, more specifically with factors of hypnotizability characterizing an ability to function in an altered state of consciousness, and negatively with the compulsive inhibitory aspects of hypnotizability. Hypnosis is clearly helpful, but may not be necessary to achieve deliberate control of dream content. Such control may have important therapeutic and growth applications. So here we see, right, if we work with people that are highly hypnotizable, they can have dreams about what we invite them to, right? So, and I would say that all hypnosis is at some level self-hypnosis. And so this really shows that there is a strong possibility of developing even a small laboratory team of dreamers that make contact, that make psionic contact. It seems obvious to me that that is one of the possible paths forward here. So, what about remote viewing in dreams, right? So, this is the other study. I did a literature review trying to find actually operational examples of what I'm talking about. And that study was one. This study is another one. It's called Associative Remote Viewing Dream Project from the Journal of Parapsychology. It was put forward in 2018 by Kat Smith, Bulgatz, and Lane. The present double-blind study is the first of its kind to utilize dreaming as a precognitive tool within the associative remote viewing protocol. A cohesive group of experienced remote viewers who varied in experience with intentional ESP precognitive dreaming practices took part in a year-long study that included 56 trials in which they attempted to have precognitive dreams that would enable them to produce descriptions and sketches that would match a photograph they would be shown at a future time. 5 of the 7 remote viewers turned dreamers were able to consistently produce dreams at will. Their transcripts were utilized for the purpose of making predictions and wagers on outcomes of sporting events. If we focus on 17 out of 28 predictions, a binomial test finds a p-value of p of 0.07, one-tailed for the proportion of hits. Although this is not significantly better than chance, overall monetary winnings increased by 400%. Further, one individual dreamer had a 72% correct hit rate based on 13 hits and 4 misses with 20 passes, while another had 16 hits and 9 misses. Variables such as raising the threshold of confidence ranking scores for dream-based ARV predictions as opposed to traditional ARV predictions involving conscious application of psi-based strategies, establishing spreads between CR scores for individuals versus aggregate dreamers, and other issues related to intentional ESP dreaming outside of laboratory settings are discussed. Examples of sketches from ARV dream transcripts are also included. So here we see there is potential to establish a team of dreamers, right? Of psychic dreamers that can have psi phenomenon, right? This is that really lead to 400% increase of winnings, right? But not necessarily statistical significance. So that might even indicate that we need different motivations than absolute proof, right? The motivations here for D-SETI would be to be of benefit to our humanity here and now, to help us embody our wisdom and intuition as a human family here and now on Earth by engaging in dialogue with extraterrestrial beings in a way that is beneficial for both cultures. I say that is probably a huge motivation. and is probably much more motivating than financial winnings through bets. There's another experiment looking at remote viewing in dreams. This was put forward in 1996. It's an evaluation of remote viewing, research and applications. The experiment, the method here is that 7 remote viewers were used. 4 were experienced in the SAIC remote viewers, and 3 were experienced lucid dreamers from the Lucidity Institute. The latter 3 were novice viewers in experiment 5. The experienced remote viewers were given training in lucid dreams. The number of trials contributed by each dreamer could not be fixed in advance because of the difficulty of obtaining lucid dream state. A total of 12 trials were conducted, with 7 viewers contributing anywhere from 1 to 7 trials each. The report did not mention whether or not the stopping criterion was fixed in advance, but the experiment was designed to proceed for a fixed period and to include all sessions obtained during the time period. Unlike the standard well-controlled protocols, the viewers were allowed to take the target material home with them. The targets selected from the National Geographic pool were sealed in opaque envelopes, covered with covert threads to detect possible tampering. Viewers were instructed to place the targets at their bedside and to attempt a lucid dream in which the envelope was opened and the target viewed. Drawings and descriptions were then produced upon waking. The results were blind judged using the standard sum of ranks. Since the majority of viewers contribute only 1 or 2 trials, analysis by individual viewer would be meaningless. For the 21 trials combined, the effect size was 0.368, p equals 0.46. The information was not provided to differentiate novice remote viewers from experienced ones. So this is the other example of remote viewing in lucid dreams. The only other example I can find. This doesn't seem to be extremely significant, but there, as you can see, there are some sort of experimental issues, and there does seem to be an actual effect here. So again, this is this sort of weak but meaningful effect size, and so I share this as a way to to talk about all of the scientific basis for this. The most recent study from 2021 regarding lucid dreams and psionic ET contact comes from emulating alien and UFO encounters in REM sleep. And this really has the premise that AUEs, as they call them, alien/UFO encounters, are a sleep and dream phenomenon. They're not something that happens physically. That's what the premise here is. And so that's what their hypothesis is. They said, hey, if we can actually get people to lucid dream UFO or ET contact, then we would know all of those things are just dreams, that there's something like some related to REM sleep phenomenon. I would actually say that, yes, they likely are related to REM sleep, but that it doesn't mean it's just a dream, that it means actually there's a possibility of psionic contact or actually physical contact. So I'll just read from their paper, Conclusions and Directions for Future Studies. The results of the present study show that bedtime AUEs can be deliberately emulated during REM sleep and can mimic reality. As such, ordinary people might spontaneously enter PS, which they call phase shift, which means an out-of-body state, a sleep paralysis state, or one of these AUE experiences, unintentionally have an AUE and confuse it with reality. This might be the case every time an AUE starts during sleep or while in a state of relaxation. Extraterrestrial civilizations, if they exist, better escape seeing us from bedrooms for not being confused with dreams. I love this line because it so very much misses the point, and demands that we actually step from this kind of geocentric worldview to a heliocentric worldview, from the materialist worldview to the consciousness worldview, because it's so clear. I mean, if you talk to people who experience these things, and they actually do have little threads of proof that show that something else is happening. However, let's continue with their paper. To explore the hypothesis more, it would be useful to compare massive databases of AUE and dream reports. Also, it would be interesting to instruct people with AUEs to have phase PS as well and even emulate their stories in there. In this case, we could compare the phase shift and the alien UFO reports from the same sources. So I love their conclusion for future study, the massive database of AUEs and dream reports. This is something we're literally building with LightNet through the work I've done with the prototype NORD, the non-ordinary reality database. I've collected about 250,000 dream reports, UFO reports, paranormal stuff, ghosts, channeled material from the public web and from 2010 to 2020, and it's being put forward as an archive, an open data repository, and where we will have real-time web crawlers updating the archive. So those were all the studies. That's the history of studying psionic dreams and how it relates to ET contact. You might be wondering why dreams? Like why study? Why not use remote viewing? Why not directly remote viewing? Why not explore in these different ways? Well, there's a few reasons. And first and foremost is coming from that previous study, right? That saw that about half of the UFO and ET encounters really do come up and out of a sleep and dream state. So there does seem to be a high degree of correlation between ET contact and dreams. Further, I would say that because they have factors like the ET contact has a high strangeness factor that is phenomenologically similar to the bizarreness factors of dreams, it makes sense. It's sort of like, okay, it's the ET contact's dreamlike, it's dreamlike, dreams are dreamlike and are like ET contact, actually. I would say that dreams are a natural or archetypal psi experience. So we all have the experience of saying, I had a dream about you, or I dreamt that this happened in the future, or in the case of scientific discoveries and things like that. And it really is a source of historical guidance, both at the political level and the scientific level. Dreams are a source of discovery and guidance for our human family. And this is this is historical, right? Dreams are meaningful. They lead to healing, insight, and transformation. And I actually see this as a transitory step for open contact. We are not necessarily prepared as a people to have face-to-face contact with extraterrestrial beings. Much rather, I would say that if we approach the contact in a domain where the human psyche can say, oh, that was just a dream, I'm not sure, it makes it easier to integrate at a holistic level the reality of contact with non-human intelligences. This might be actually like contact, Carl Sagan's contact, right? Build this huge device, you go through a spinning sacred geometric form, you go through a wormhole, you have this dreamlike encounter with a being that kind of looks like you, sort of thing. You have an ambassadorial interaction, right? And then you come back. Half of the people don't believe her, half of the people might, right? And so it's working with the almost physicality of the emotional and psychic testimony in this way can help massage the materialist worldview, help massage people who have been traumatized by the media narratives around extraterrestrials, help massage that into being more open, right? And that's why we're focusing on dreams. There's, and they also require participation for interpretation, right? So that's a huge part. It requires participation for interpretation. Unless you're willing to participate and have a dream, your mind will say, oh, those are just dreams, right? And you have to participate on your own level, even to ethically engage with objective study of dreams, right? So in that way, it can be possibly bypassing of the psi restrictions on overwhelming proof. So we've seen a sort of restriction effect with psionic phenomena in laboratory settings. We've also seen a restriction phenomena in the overwhelming proof of extraterrestrial beings. It comes by way of testimony. It comes by way of anecdote. It doesn't come by way of reproducing a highly psionic experience in laboratory setting. And it doesn't come by way of UFOs landing on the White House lawn or whatever. It relies on person-to-person testimony. And in this way, Dreams are a natural way, and dream sharing is an extremely natural experience that leads to insight and greater social cohesion. So these are all, it's just an incredible, there's no way we could go wrong actually with this, because our psyches, our subconscious minds have our highest good as their intent and can actually guide us. That we can actually step into this greater world guided by our hearts. Right? And that's why dreams. That's why the dream search for extraterrestrial intelligence. I'm not talking about paying astronomer priests to look at dead stars, right? I'm talking about inspiring every single person to make contact with themselves first, and then to have an interaction, a direct person-to-person interaction with extraterrestrial intelligence. That's what I'm talking about. It's in a way that's beneficial for everyone involved. Right? There's no major risk here. When I look into the effects of doing dream work, it leads to insight, it leads to healing, it leads to empathy. It leads to the resolution of psychotic and schizophrenic states. I don't know of occasions where someone's looked into their dreams and had a bad thing happen. So why not this? All right, so let's talk about the research proposal. So the D-SETI Institute, the mission of D-SETI is to search for, document, and study extraterrestrial contact through psionic dreams for the benefit of humanity and the entire community of the Earth in accordance with the principle of non-harm. Our mission is to make contact with extraterrestrial civilizations who practice dream telepathy for the purposes of cultural and knowledge exchange, expansion of consciousness, discovery and curiosity, and service to humanity and the greater community. I'm saying let's make contact with life like we know it, telepathic dreamers on a different planet that are something like us. I'm not talking about microbes on Titan. I'm talking about potentially humanoid figures, potentially psychic spiritual entities that practice dream telepathy with one another and have perhaps even practice it at a greater level than we have, so they can help us and assist us in developing this capacity. That's what I'm talking about. So here is the logo for D-SETI. And I just want to talk about who I am in this context. I've been really inspired by dreams and dream contact. I've actually been working since 2009 to put together web technologies that will bring that have massive data collection and perform the analysis that I've been talking about. We're actively in a process of moving that from prototype to operational with LightNet through the work of a web technology firm. So I'm not actually developing it anymore. A professional agency is, and that's been a really wonderful shift. My education and professional credentials include a bachelor's in Western Liberal Arts from St. John's College, master's degree in East-West Psychology from the California Institute of Integral Studies. I'm a certified hypnotherapist in depth hypnosis and certified in beyond quantum healing. I am the chief dream officer of DreamWell, a mobile app about mobile scientifically based dream journal, and it provides mindfulness, sleep, and dream meditations. I'm the technical co-founder of lightnet.org and Exo Metaverse. I contributed the chapter Lucid Dreams as a contact modality to CCRI's upcoming book, A Greater Reality, and I have 5 years experience leading web application development focused on interactive data visualization. So these are related organizations. Cosmic Dream Sanctuary is my dream work and hypnosis services for individuals. This is where I actually support people in dream work and extraterrestrial contact through hypnosis and dreams. DreamWell is the mobile app to help you sleep, dream, and be well. We've got LightNet and Exo Metaverse. That's the citizen science platform for collective intelligence, and that has a growing community as well as this technology I'm talking about. And then we've got CCRI, which is the inspiring organization that put forward the theory of the greater reality of consciousness, and also the statistical study on which a lot of the understanding of psionic ET contact arises. So I'm also looking for a PhD program to do this work, and so I want to actually make and define knowledge for us here and now, and that can happen only actually at the PhD level, doing peer-reviewed research and having committees and things like that in an accredited situation. I'm looking at one in particular, but I'm open to others. So if you know of any that would fit this mission, please get in touch with me at daniel@dseti.org, or if you have an organization that would like to participate in this, let me know. The D-SETI is going to be a 501c3 based on a board of directors and a board of advisors. The board of directors meets on policy and execution of the D-SETI objective. It meets annually with optional quarterly or monthly committee meetings. It is advised, the board of directors is going to be advised by about 24 advisors. I have 24 advisors in mind who I've worked with in the past or who are professionals in the field that I've actually had contact with. So I think hopefully we can pull together a dream team to study this stuff. But the advisor role, the board of advisors would serve on panel discussions to advise the board of directors in terms of policy and execution of objectives. So the advisor responsibilities are to read our updates, our quarterly updates, and then to provide advice on an ad hoc basis at about 1 hour per quarter, to participate in panel discussions related to their domain expertise at about 2 hours per year, and to participate in any other panel discussions as they want. So that's about a 10-hour a year commitment. It's important to know that ethics are really important in representing humanity. So we will have an advocate for humanity that will sit on every single panel discussion that will represent human interests, and will engage that in that way. So that might be a temporary or permanent role and might rotate, but that's important to note. The advisory boards include panels on operation, web technologies, academics, dream studies, and ET contact. How does D-SETI work? Well, it focuses exclusively on 3 activities. One is the production of collective knowledge through dream reports, from dream reports through publication of content analysis studies. 2 is the publication of interpersonal dream experiences like dream sharing through storytelling and discussion circles or lucid dream experiments. And then 3, through the support of individual dream practices through education of dreamers and publication of dream work guides. There are 6 projects through which these activities will be expressed. One is an open data commons, and this is the repository of dream and contact reports. This is coming up and through LightNet. And so this is the massive database we've been talking about. This is bringing together all of those reports so that we can perform analysis on them. 2, the second project, which is an open source analysis pipeline and API that really does do the work, automated work of content analysis through natural language processing. And these techniques have been explored in the scientific literature, so it is in basis of science. I'm not inventing new techniques here. Then to provide advanced search capabilities, export, and visualization reports. And again, that's happening through LightNet. The third project is education and dream sharing classes online. And so that happens through LightNet and Cosmic Dream Sanctuary. And these are places where you can come together and learn and practice dream sharing online. We've got the mobile app for dream experimentation. So if you run an experiment, you've got to be able to disseminate experiment intentions or instructions and collect dream reports. And that's happening through Dreamwell, the mobile app. Number 5 is DreamWork sessions and education. So this is classes, and especially DreamWork sessions, meaning the therapeutic support, the hypnosis support of people who want to work with a practitioner as well. And so then the 6th activity is the academic research, and that will happen through papers, white papers, peer-reviewed articles, and my PhD work, and collaborations with organizations such as CCRI. So we are seeking seed donation. I just wanted to let you know that SETI, when it was part of NASA, received a budget of $10 million per year. It recently received $100 million, and it operates at about 22. Last year it was $24 million a year. And so D-SETI is actually just seeking a very seed level donation that is 0.4% of SETI's operational budget. It is $500,000 over the next 5 years. And so all of these financials, which are transparently discussed in the D-SETI research proposal, are available online at dseti.org. The seed donation will be used for accredited PhD work focused on ET contact through psionic dreams. It will allow for the development and hosting of a massive database of dreams as an open data commons, the development of the open source analysis pipelines, the development of the massive lucid intent experiments through the mobile app DreamWell. It will provide for the research into and publication of dream work best practices to seek for and establish contact with extraterrestrial intelligence through dreams. It will allow for the facilitation of online dream groups for ET contact through psionic dreams. And it will provide for a fundraising effort to establish a capital foundation of $15 million to build a research organization on par with Wikipedia or SETI. This is enough money to ensure that the open data commons, the open source pipeline, all of the educational material and things like that can be stewarded and developed and grown in perpetuity. So that's really important to know. We are looking at establishing an enduring legacy of this open data commons, this open source technology, so that we can really make contact and really shift our world here and now. So that's what the $500,000 over 5 years will go to, is all of these specific projects and points. So if you want to learn more, you can go to our website, dseti.org, or get in contact with me through email at daniel@dseti.org. So you can download the research proposal I talked about. This is about 24 pages. It has all of the references. It goes through each of the points and is built like a proposal for a project. It's a project proposal. So thank you for being here. Thank you for considering the scientific basis for D-SETI. Thank you for considering all of this topic. It's a really important thing. So I have the image here of Earthrise. So this was taken by the moon astronauts who looked back on Earth. And how beautiful is it, right? This is a really potent image that helps us see where we actually are. We're on this beautiful blue planet, floating in the darkness of space. And this image just sort of yearns for a sense of human family. We're all just one human family here on this beautiful planet. So let's really just acknowledge that and do whatever it takes for us to develop empathy, develop insight into our experience, right? We might be experienced like right now in our society here and now. We're experiencing war. We're experiencing denial of the psionic aspects of humanity. We might even see this as a condition of psychosis, right? We might even see that we are in an experience of something like psychosis, like our activities with the planet, our activities with each other. We have been separated from one another for various reasons, and we're in this state of darkness, confusion, and separation. But it's important to know, right, that the scientific literature about dreaming is extremely clear. Dreams lead to insight that potentially resolve psychotic issues, right? You can use lucid dream practices with psychotic people, and they start to learn how to identify what is waking reality and what is dreaming, what is fantasy, what is not. They do that. So let's use lucid dream practices together to wake up from our own collective psychosis. And further, it's important to know that dream sharing practices lead to empathy. They lead to empathy. Right? If we shared our dreams with one another, we would develop a sense of emotional and psychic intimacy that would probably, I would say, as a people, help us be more connected, less aggressive. And so I'm just really grateful that you have considered all of this stuff here and now so far. I would invite you to invite a psionic dream of contact, right? So you've watched this video. You might already know that ET contact, psionic ET contact is a thing. You might not. You might have a dream practice, or you might not. Wherever you are, I'd invite you to say yes. To say yes according to the principle of non-harm for the benefit of all, right? So these are really kind of foundational guidelines for how we make contact, right? According to the principle of non-harm for the benefit of all, right? And so you say those two things. You say, yes, I want to have a dream. I'm going to incubate a dream here and now, right? And you might have to try it a few nights, right? Based on our understanding of how lucid intent works, right? About 50% of lucid dream, 50% of lucid intents are accomplished with the lucid dreamers. So you might have to practice up there. It might not be immediate, it might be a day or two, but if you say yes and establish that intent, then you may actually have contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence. And I'd love to hear about that. I'd love for you to share that story in ways that are meaningful and supported by a scientific basis, right? It's hard to share your dreams about ET contact if there isn't a worldview that accepts it, nor is there scientific literature that supports it. But I'm saying actually here is more than enough signal for you to explore this in your own life, and more than enough signal for you to talk about this in your life. This isn't crazy stuff. It's highly strange, it's highly bizarre, but it is certainly not crazy, and it's certainly not based in science. So just know that. Just be with that and invite that sense of participation in your life. Well, that's it for me for right now. Thank you so much. And I am really appreciative that you've spent the time with me here and now. So may you dream well,